All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We always love tackling those topics that you, our listeners, are really digging into. And this one, well, it hits close to home for a lot of us. We're diving into the world of AI-powered cheating in online games.
Yeah, it's a timely one for sure. And the stuff you send over really highlights the scale of this,
Hmm.
the different ways AI is being used to cheat, how traditional anti-cheat systems are struggling to keep up, and like what new solutions are being developed. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And our goal today is to give everyone listening a clear view of this kind of technological arms race that's happening within gaming. What are the key things to understand? What does this all mean for, having a fair and fun experience when we play online? So let's start at the beginning. How did we even get to AI-powered cheating in the first place?
So, like the sources you sent over point out, cheating in online games has been around, well, pretty much as long as people have been playing games online. But those early cheats were a lot simpler. I mean, they mostly involved exploiting like glitches in the game's code or using external programs to directly mess with the game's memory.
Yeah, I remember those. The aim bots that would just snap onto a target. Super obvious.
Oh, yeah, totally. But AI has changed all that. AI cheats, well, they can analyze the game in real time, almost like a human player would.
Yeah.
So instead of just changing values in the game's memory, they're processing what's happening on screen visually and learning from it. That makes them way harder to detect.
And the sources specifically mention how powerful AI models are becoming more accessible,
The
right?
huge part of this, like take YOLO, for instance. That stands for You Only Look Once, by the way. YOLO is an object recognition AI, and we're talking about versions all the way up to V10 being used. What this means for gaming is, basically, these AI can identify things like player models, weapons, you name it, just from the visual feed in real time.
So it's basically giving these cheat programs eyes that can instantly understand what they're seeing.
Exactly. And there's even a public example out there of an aimbot using YOLO 5 to achieve incredibly accurate aim in any game with humanoid characters. It just looks at the screen and processes the visual information to make targeting decisions.
That's kind of wild. It's not even interacting with the game's code, just observing and reacting. And this isn't some small-time operation either, right? The sources made it clear that there's some serious money behind this.
Oh, absolutely. The financial scale of the AI game cheat industry is massive. Hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of dollars annually. It's a whole business, often with organized groups working on subscription models and stuff.
So it's advanced, driven by, huge amounts of money. But what's the real impact here? Why should someone listening, someone who just wants to play a game fairly, even care about this?
Well, because the negative consequences go way beyond just an unfair match here and there. The information you provided details the economic hit. We're talking multi-billion-dollar losses. One source, from back in 2019, it estimated revenue losses around $29 billion for the game industry because of cheating.
Wow, 29 billion. That's a lot of money.
Right. If players feel like a game is rigged, they're less likely to spend money on it. That's less money on in-app purchases and stuff. Plus, it costs developers more more server resources, more staff to handle complaints, and constant updates to anti-cheat measures. And it even messes with their data, making it harder to understand real player behavior.
Yeah, if your data is full of actions from cheaters, how can you even tell what's actually going on in your game? And I can only imagine how frustrating it is for the players themselves.
Oh, for sure. It completely ruins the experience. You log in, you want a fair and fun game, and you keep running into players who seem superhuman. It just leads to frustration. And ultimately, a lot of players just give up and go to games where they feel like there's a level playing field. That hurts the whole game, the community, everything.
All right, so we've got the what and the why. This is a problem. But how about the how? Like, how do these AI cheats actually pull off their tricks?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. So remember those enhanced aimbots we were talking about earlier?
The ones that are way smarter than just locking onto a target.
Exactly. These AI bots analyze the game frame by frame in real time. They can spot enemies even in cluttered environments, and most importantly, they're designed to mimic human aiming. Instead of just snapping onto a target, they might adjust the aim subtly, making it look more natural.
So it's harder to tell if it's a skilled player or someone using an aimbot.
Exactly. And it gets even crazier. These AI can predict enemy movement and adjust their aim in advance. They can tweak sensitivity, even have trigger bots that automatically fire when the crosshair is on target.
Trigger bots. So, like, you don't even have to click. It just fires for you when the target is lined up.
Yep. And the development of these aimbots involves some pretty advanced machine learning. Stuff like supervised learning, where the AI learns from tons of gameplay data, clustering, where it groups similar player behaviors, and even reinforcement learning, where it learns through trial and error.
So it's like it figures out what normal human play looks like and then tries to copy that.
Exactly. And remember YOLO. It plays a big part in that real-time object detection. This isn't just about modifying recoil anymore. These AI are essentially simulating perfect aim, but in a way that looks almost human.
Man, that sounds really tough to counter. What about wall hacks and ESP? I always thought those were just about seeing through walls.
Well, AI has taken those to a whole new level too. Instead of just showing you where enemies are based on the game's memory, AI-powered wall hacks analyze tons of data movements, sounds to predict where enemies are going to be. They can even use object and image recognition to make sure they're highlighting players and not just random objects.
So it's like having a predictive radar instead of just a map of where everyone is right now. That's nuts.
It is. And then you have behavior prediction and automation cheats. These are pretty wild too. By training AI on massive amounts of gameplay data, these cheats can anticipate what their opponent is going to do next and react with crazy speed,
Yeah.
like pre-aiming where an opponent is about to peek, or even pre-firing before they even show themselves.
That's just unfair.
It is. And because it looks like super fast human reactions, it's really hard to tell if it's just a skilled player or an AI cheat doing the work.
Okay, so AI is making wall hacks and aimbots even more powerful. But the sources also mention AI macros. What's different about those?
So old school macros were just preset sequences of actions.
Hmm.
Like you press a button and it does a specific combo. But AI-driven macros are adaptive. They can analyze what's happening in the game and react accordingly. Think about like fighting games with those crazy long combos that require perfect timing. An AI macro could execute those flawlessly every time while making it look like a human player.
So it's like having a super skilled player inside your computer doing the hard parts for you.
Yeah, pretty much. And in strategy games, they could manage resources and build stuff with insane efficiency. It's crazy how many areas AI is being used to cheat.
It really is. And then there's this whole other category that just sounds scary. AI-driven game state manipulation. That sounds like it's messing with the very rules of the game itself.
Yeah, this one is potentially the most concerning. Basically, the idea is that AI could analyze the game's code to find vulnerabilities. Like, imagine a chess AI discovering a loophole that lets it win every time. In a video game, this could be things like forcing opponents to disconnect, or even messing with in-game resources in ways that aren't directly tied to what the player is doing.
So it's not even interacting with the game in a way that's easy to see, which makes it even harder to detect.
Exactly. And as AI gets better at understanding complex systems, this kind of exploitation could become a huge problem. Like, if an AI is looking for vulnerabilities, could it exploit network protocols to cause lag for other players? Or would it be more about manipulating things like in-game currencies or item drops?
Wow. It sounds like a nightmare for developers to try and stay ahead of that. So we've seen how these AI cheats are getting so advanced. Now, how about the anti-cheat software that's supposed to stop them? Why are the traditional methods struggling so much?
Well, a lot of the common anti-cheat software out there, like VSE, Easy Anti-Cheat, BattleEye, they've traditionally relied on a few main methods, like scanning for known cheat code signatures, basically like digital fingerprints. They also look for unauthorized file changes, and they analyze player behavior based on preset rules.
But wouldn't those methods only work against cheats that they already know about?
That's the problem. They're reactive. And
Yeah.
with AI cheats, you're dealing with something that can create brand new behaviors that might not have those telltale signatures. Plus, a lot of these anti-cheat systems are like black boxes. Developers don't always know exactly how they work, making it harder to adapt them to these new AI threats.
Okay, so it sounds like knowing how the anti-cheat works is super important. But what about the newer stuff? We've seen these kernel-level drivers like Ricochet and Vanguard. They have much deeper access to our computers. Are they more effective against AI cheats?
They definitely offer a different level of monitoring. Ricochet, for Call of Duty, and Vanguard for Valorant, they operate at the kernel level. That means they have deep access to your operating system, which is great for catching those really sneaky cheats, but it also raises some privacy concerns.
So it's like they're looking at everything your computer is doing, even outside the game.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It lets them see software and applications interacting with the game and stop certain types of manipulation. They can even prevent things like taking screenshots. It's effective against some traditional cheats, especially the ones messing with game files or memory. But they also have limitations, especially against those external AI cheats that run on a separate machine.
So if The AI cheat is on a different computer and just sending inputs based on what it sees through a capture card. The anti-cheat software wouldn't even know it's happening.
Right. Plus, there's some debate about whether even these kernel-level systems are sophisticated enough to detect the very subtle patterns of AI cheats that are designed to look human.
It really does sound like a constant arms race. Anti-cheat developers come up with something, and the cheat developers find a way around it. But then, the sources also talked about these new AI-powered anti-cheat technologies, like using AI to fight AI.
Right, and that's where things start to get more interesting. The gaming industry is definitely starting to realize that they need to fight fire with fire, so to speak.
So, what are some of these new approaches? You mentioned AnyBrain earlier.
Yeah, AnyBrain is a really interesting one. Instead of focusing on game code or memory, they analyze player behavior at a super granular level, like even down to individual pixels on the screen. They use special algorithms based on understanding how humans interact with computers to try and spot the difference between a real player and a cheat.
Analyzing pixels, that's crazy detailed. What kind of stuff are they looking at specifically?
Things like the speed and patterns of controller inputs, how the mouse moves, even how often a player changes direction. Because they're looking at behavior, it doesn't require that deep system access, and it can be used across different games and platforms. Plus, they say it can adapt to new cheats as they come out, like those AI bots that manipulate pixels directly, or even DMA cheats.
Yeah, I made cheats. Yeah.
Yeah, direct memory access cheats. That's where someone uses specialized hardware to directly read and write the game's memory, making it super hard for software to detect. But AnyBrain says their system can still catch them.
And they also mentioned something about biometric signatures for each player, right?
Yeah, that's their way of trying to stop repeat offenders. They create a unique profile for every player based on how they play things like reaction time, movements, even their decision-making.
Hmm.
And this profile is stored securely. The idea is that even if a cheater gets banned and creates a new account, the system can still recognize their playstyle and flag them.
So it's like a fingerprint, but for how you play the game.
Pretty much. They say it takes around 2 hours of gameplay to build that profile. Now, their accuracy claims are impressive, but it would be good to see some independent testing to really confirm how well it works in the real world. There's been talk of it being integrated into games like Valorant, but nothing official yet.
So potentially game-changing, but we need to see more data. What about that other one, SARD anti-cheat? What are they doing differently?
SARD takes a more kind of comprehensive approach. They use a hybrid system that combines that deep system access of a kernel-level anti-cheat with AI and machine learning. The kernel-level part lets them monitor everything happening on the system, looking for any manipulation of game processes. And then the AI and ML analyze game data to find patterns that suggest cheating, and they're constantly learning from new data.
So it's like two layers of protection working together.
Exactly. And SARD is all about being customizable, too. They let developers tailor the system to the specific needs of their game. They claim a super high efficiency rate, like 99.99% accuracy, and they even have stats on their website about how many cheats they've detected and how many users they've banned.
99.99%. That's pretty high.
Yeah, but the information you sent over also mentioned that there's some mixed feedback from players. Some say they still run into cheaters even in games using SARD, and there have been questions about how transparent they are about their data.
So maybe some healthy skepticism is warranted until there's more independent verification.
Definitely. And of course, we can't talk about anti-cheat without mentioning Valve's own system, VCNet.
Oh yeah, good old VAC. How is AI changing that?
So VAC, that's Valve Anti-Cheat, has been around forever. It started out with those more traditional methods, like scanning for cheat files. But Valve realized they needed to step up their game. So VAC is their big move towards AI-powered anti-cheat. Instead of just looking at files, they're now analyzing actual gameplay data.
So how does that actually work?
Well, VACnet 2.0 was a big step. It used deep learning to analyze match replays, looking for those little things in how players aim, shoot, and move that could indicate cheating. And now they've got VACnet 3.0, which uses even more advanced AI and ML.
And what about false positives? Like, what if the system mistakenly thinks someone is cheating when they're not?
Well, that's where their hybrid approach comes in. If the AI flags a player, the evidence is reviewed by a human moderator before any ban happens. It's a good system for trying to minimize those unfair bans.
So it sounds like AI is pretty much the future of anti-cheat, right? Learning from players, analyzing all that game data, and trying to stay ahead of the cheaters.
Yeah, it's clear that this is the direction things are going. And the information you provided really suggests that the most effective way to combat this is going to be a multi-layered strategy, like using several different approaches all at once.
So what would that look like in practice?
Well, you'd have things like real-time behavioral analysis. That's where AI is constantly watching how players are interacting with the game, their inputs, their movements, reaction times, accuracy, and comparing it to what's considered normal. Then you've got anomaly detection, where AI looks at all the data from a match and tries to find those statistically impossible events or patterns that suggest cheating.
So it's like finding those outliers, those things that just shouldn't be possible for a normal player to do.
Exactly. And then you add in stuff like advanced pattern recognition, looking at the raw data from your mouse and keyboard to see if it looks like a script is controlling it. And machine learning can also help with detecting new cheat signatures as they pop up.
That's a lot of AI working behind the scenes to keep things fair.
It is, but there's more. The sources also talked about the importance of combining those software solutions with hardware solutions, like maybe using something like AnyBrain's biometric profiling, or even exploring hardware authentication methods.
Okay, so like making sure the hardware itself is legit, not just the software.
Right. And then, of course, there's game design itself. Developers can build their games in ways that make it harder for AI cheats to work. Things like making sure the server has authority over key game functions, hiding or encrypting game data, and creating environments that are more unpredictable. And then there's community involvement too. Good reporting systems and using AI to help analyze those reports.
So it's like a whole ecosystem of anti-cheat all working together. We talked about the business side of things earlier, but how do these new AI anti-cheat methods fit into all of that?
Well, the financial impact of cheating is still a huge issue for game developers. The money they lose from players leaving, the cost of developing anti-cheat, the damage to their reputation, it all adds up. So investing in these AI-powered anti-cheat systems, while it can be expensive, is really becoming a necessity.
It's like an investment in the future of the game itself.
That's a good way to put it. And what about the future of this whole, cat and mouse game between cheaters and developers?
Yeah, what does the information you sent over suggest about how things might play out?
Well, the sources are pretty clear that this is going to be an ongoing battle. We can expect AI cheats to get even more sophisticated, using the latest machine learning to mimic human behavior so well that they're almost impossible to detect. We might see AI that learns the play styles of individual players to blend in even better. And we could see more cheats running on separate hardware or in the cloud, making them harder to catch.
So it sounds like the anti-cheat side will need to be constantly innovating to keep up.
Absolutely. There's going to be a constant need for research and development into new AI-powered detection methods. The information you shared even mentioned some potential trends, like AI cheats that can learn and adapt on their own, more manipulation at the hardware level, and cloud-based cheating services that are harder to detect. The future of fair play in online games, it really hinges on whether the industry can develop those robust and adaptable AI anti-cheat solutions.
This has been an incredible deep dive into a topic that is honestly mind-boggling in its complexity. It's amazing how AI is not only changing the way we play online games, but also creating these huge challenges to the idea of fair play and competition.
It really is.
Yeah.
We've seen how cheating has evolved from simple hacks to these super sophisticated systems that are using AI to analyze and manipulate the game in real time. And thankfully, the anti-cheat side is fighting back with their own AI-powered solutions. But as we've discussed, it's a constant race to stay ahead.
So, for you listening out there, here's something to think about. Considering how quickly both sides of this battle are evolving, what fundamental changes might we need to see in games themselves or even in how we think about playing online to ensure that everyone has a fair and enjoyable experience in the future? It's a question worth pondering. And thanks for joining us on this deep dive.